Hello everyone, welcome to Pete CD Vinyl World. Today I am going to do a review of the new Kiss, well not so new, the Creatures of the Night 40th Anniversary Deluxe Box Set Edition. This came out back in November. So it's the 40th anniversary of Creatures of the Night, and if you're not a Kiss fan, you probably don't realize maybe that the early 80s, Kiss had lost their popularity pretty much in America by 1980. Then they put out The Elder, which was a complete flop and sort of a concept album. So their return to rock was on Creatures, came out in '82. By then, Eric Carr had been on drums for a couple years. Ace had pretty much left the band, like creatively, musically, for probably since The Elder was completed. So he did not play on this album. He was on the cover. They were trying to get him to remain in the band because they had a record deal that said that there had to be 3 original members in the band to, I guess, receive their full record contract. But he did put him on the cover, and he did do the promotional tour around TV and appearances and such. Then he left the band right before the tour, and Vinnie Vincent joined, who actually helped out co-write several songs on the album and played on a few as well. A lot of people believe that he played on all the leads on the album. He actually didn't. There was a bunch of different guitar players that played on the albums. We'll get into that. So let's see what this comes with. I had already unboxed it and listened to it and everything, so this is more a review than an unboxing. But, you know, I was able to get the shrink to remain on the cover. A lot of people are just ripping it off and they put the hype sticker inside the box, but I was able to get the shrink to remain. This is the main book that comes with it, which has some of the master tapes, or I guess the master tape of the first and second side on the cover. So in this book, basically a bunch of pictures. That's the lineup with Vinny. And just quotes about production of the album along. I didn't realize that Bill Aucoin was actually involved with the band until early '82, because there's this letter, one of the first pages, stating how Kiss has to get back to their rock image and they should use Eric Carr, sort of make him seem like he's this party animal and blah, blah, blah. When really he was kind of like just like a quiet guy. So throughout the book, they have just a bunch of quotes and commentary on where they were at the time. The set does go into, I guess, cover Killers as well, which was the compilation released before Creatures that had 4 new songs. Killers still had the Elder outfits here, so they go into those tracks. Those, of course, have Bob Kulick on lead guitar. Ace didn't play on those either, but we'll get into the music later on. So the book has also pictures where they came up with the blue imaging for the cover, and in fact, this is, I believe this photo here is the Gene. They used Gene and Paul from this photo, but I think Ace and Eric are more forward facing, so I guess they use a composite photo for the actual cover. They also have some labels here, like the singles in different countries, which is cool. And also have a page, just like Destroyer box set, of the cassettes from all over the country. Go into a lot about the video for Alive It Loud, which Ace was in. They make a big deal about him not knowing the song, but I just watched the video again, and he did sort of know where to at least put his hands and stuff. I mean, that song is basically just B, A, D, and E open chords the whole time, so it's not like he's playing like something that complicated. And it's just a lot of cool photos from the tour and the press tour. I thought the Destroyer book had a lot more info in it itself. But, you know, and it does give some insight to the tracks here, which I'll get into, because just like the Destroyer set, on all of the demos and rarities, they don't say who plays on them, which is kind of annoying. But there is some Ace on here on some of the demos, and I'll point them out. It's also dedicated to Eric Carr and Michael James Jackson, who produced Creatures of the Night. He also known for producing the Killers tracks, Lick It Up, and I believe he started to help on Animalize before he had to go on to another project. His name was actually just Michael Jackson, but Gene gave him the middle name James just to have a distinction from Michael Jackson, because if it came out as Michael Jackson produced the album, everybody would be like, what? So it also comes with a reproduction of their 10th anniversary tour book, which is one of their rarer tour books because not many people saw this tour. But the tour book is, just like most tour books, pretty short. They've got the wrong years on some of these pictures, which is weird, considering that the picture for Creatures, it has 1981 on it. So I don't understand how they let that go. But it just basically has some photos of each member, including Peter and Ace, celebrating their 10th anniversary tour. Yeah, so there's that. It's a miniature version, which is cool. And next it has this fold-out pamphlet with some pictures, and I'll show you. But the odd thing is, I don't know if you can see it here, the kiss is embossed backwards. And I've heard other people talk about this. Some of theirs, I guess when they produce these, some plants folded it backwards. So the kiss is actually backwards on mine. Some people have it correct, but it's just an odd thing. What's in here is 4, I guess, sketches of the band members, which are pretty cool. Let's see what else. And then there's this, they did this for Destroyer as well. There's this newspaper talking all about Creatures, and this is where it has all of the information for the bonus tracks and demos and rarities. So you have to go through this and read it. I find this kind of annoying, just like the Destroyer one. I would rather have them just put that in the book. I guess they're trying to be like unique or whatever, but it's kind of, if I'm reading about the tracks, I don't want to have to take this thing out again. It's kind of annoying. So what else? And then finally, we got the press kit, but they also give you this patch, Creatures patch, some buttons of all 4 members with Vinny, not Ace, and they give a set of guitar picks, 6 picks, which also includes Eric Carr and Ace. It's kind of weird because these are, they use the correct logo if you ever see picks from this era. It's not outlined or anything, but the picks are like much smaller than a regular guitar pick, kind of miniature. I don't know why they did that. Kind of weird. So then they also include this press kit. And I'll show you the contents of this. So it comes with, I don't know if all of this came with the original press kit. I have a feeling it was mostly just the biography, which I'll show you. But there's an iron-on here, which, who's going to use this stuff, really? It's part of the package. There's 4 collector cards here, and they're from the Elder era. I don't understand if they were going to include the Killers tracks and everything on this set, why they didn't include, like in Japan, they had all these promotional items when you bought Killers. Why didn't they include that stuff? These may be from that. I'm not sure. I mean, they possibly could be. There's a backstage pass reproduction from Detroit, Cobo Hall. A sticker. This was the famous poster from this loudest band in the world, which they do give you a repro also, I'll show you. And this is a reproduction ticket from Brazil, when they played those stadiums at the end of the tour. I wonder if the tickets were actually this big or just, you know. Reproduction sticker, I Love It Loud. And then you get 5 press photos here of each member, including this one, which is a pretty famous shot of them. And then the other side of the press kit has their actual biography, what they included in the original press kit, which is pretty cool. It's on heavy stock paper, not just regular like printer paper. And it gives a, you know, kind of like a quick biography of the band and where they were. They don't mention in this yet that Ace had left. They mention Eric because he's been in the band a couple of years. And then first poster is this Japan promo poster. I guess maybe it came with the album when you bought it in stores. I don't know if the original one was bigger, but you could see they still have their Elder outfits on that. A lot of people love this. I'm not really crazy about it. It reminds me of the one, they also did one for the Elder that was very similar to this as well. So I guess it's pretty cool, but it's okay to have, I guess. This is what I was referring to, the famous loudest band in the world promo poster. Not promo poster, but it's I guess it was a poster that appeared in record stores. A company must have reproduced these back in the 90s, because I remember my brother having this poster on his wall. Obviously not an original, but that's a cool poster. And then you get a fold out. I remember having this exact fold out from a magazine as well. And you get some stage renderings, which would have been I guess a bigger stage show than they went out with. And they had a lot more of this for Destroyer. So as far as the contents, I feel like they had a lot more with Destroyer. And considering this box set was about $50 to $80 more, I don't understand why they didn't include more. But it's still a lot of cool stuff. So now let's get to the music part of it, which was the most important part. All right. So if you're a fan of Creatures, you knew that they had a bunch of demos from this era, which we'll cover. But the actual album is a remastered version of Creatures of the Night. And I'm just going to grab the 97 remaster. So I listened to this and compared it to the 97 remaster, which is the last issue of it on CD. And I feel like on this, I mean, it sounds good, but it feels like they just cranked the bass a little and just made it louder. A lot of people are saying this is the best version of it. They reissued it on vinyl also. I heard that, so to compare, so I'm just going by the CD. I still prefer the 97 remaster. Now, those of you who don't know, if you have the 2014 version of the LP, that is actually the 1985 mix. So we'll get to that. They put out Creatures again in 85 with a non-makeup cover with Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr. That had some remixed tracks on it, and they changed the order where Saint and Sinner was at the end of the album. And I think Killer was the second track, which I actually prefer that version because that's the one I had in the 80s. By the time I was collecting their albums, this album was already out of print, and the 85 one was the one available. But I still think the 97 one sounds better than this. Sorry. But like I said, I haven't heard the vinyl yet, which is another thing. If you're going to charge $60 to $80 more than the Destroyer one, they could have included just the regular vinyl album. They do have a couple of deluxe ones where they include like a second LP or third LP of the extra tracks and live tracks, but it's not all of them. You still need to buy this set to get all of the tracks. So, okay. So next, I'll go over the Blu-ray audio. They did this on Destroyer as well. I guess it's supposed to be like a 3D thing where you can look at it in 3D glasses. And the inside's got that picture again. I listened to it. I don't have like a 5.1 system, but I have a sound bar and subwoofer on my living room. You know, I thought it sounded good. The PCM, which is more just like a stereo, sounded the best and was the loudest. I don't know who needs like Blu-ray audio. I don't really get that whole thing unless you're listening to like maybe a concert or something like that. The whole concept of it, I don't really get. I would have rather than put a Blu-ray with all like television clips and any footage they have from this tour, which is not a lot. They do put the I Love It Loud video on here, which is cool. Destroyer one was the same way. They didn't have any video on that one at all. But you know, this is, to me, this is kind of a type of thing where you probably listen to it once, but you're never really going to listen to that again, you know. So let's go over the demos and rarities. Comes in a double disc set with, again, more master tapes on the cover. So there's a bunch of tracks on here that were even demos that I've never heard before, like on YouTube or ones that I've collected over the years. But it starts off with the 4 new tracks from Killers, so it covers that. Then what you have are what are known as the Penny Lane demos, which is Deadly Weapons, which is a sort of a famous demo that's been out there. Later part of it was taken to using the chorus of Love's a Deadly Weapon from Asylum, but it's a completely different song. So Deadly Weapons, Feel Like Having Nowhere to Run. Those songs are actually, these demos are actually pre-Elder, and they don't mention that here. They make it seem like these are demos for the Creatures. They're not, because Deadly Weapons and Nowhere to Run, the original demos, actually Ace plays on. If you hear the solo, it's definitely Ace, without a doubt. And even one of them, you even hear him counting off. Feel Like Heaven, I think, is all Gene. He plays all the instruments with a drum machine. And there's no way that's a Creatures demo because it's actually very disco-y. And would have fit perfectly on Unmasked. I'm surprised they didn't, well, it wasn't written at the time, but it was given to Peter to use on Let Me Rock You, which also came out in 82. But that song is definitely very disco-ish. It's not from this era. So they don't mention that either. That's what I was complaining about before. They don't mention really what years these demos are from and who played on them and blah, blah, blah. So Feel Like Heaven has the full demo, which was pretty cool. It's like 3 verses. And then there's another alternate demo, which is the one that collectors have had in their possession. I've had it on cassette for a while. That's the one I'm familiar with. Nowhere to Run, instrumental. I think that was, it mentions it was done at Ace's studio. So I believe he plays on that as well. There's a couple songs here with just drums and bass. Tell It to a Fool, Chrome Goes Into Motion. I'm a Legend Tonight from Killers. Don't Leave Me Lonely, which was written by Eric Carr and actually was on Bryan Adams' Cuts Like a Knife album, but there's no vocals here. It's just the drums, bass, and guitar. Something Seems to Happen at Night was just a Gene demo. I can't place the timing on this one. It's lesser quality than the others. It could be 80, 81. I'm not sure. It's going to be all right. It's an okay. These 2 songs actually sound more of like his solo album material. It's not as heavy as you would think. So moving on to the next disc, Legends Never Die. I believe that's the same Legends Never Die that it's on the Wendy O. Williams album. Sounds different to me, though. I have to compare them again. And, of course, It's My Life, which was a famous demo that was out. They re-recorded it for Psycho Circus as well. That version ended up on the Kiss box set that came out about 20 years ago. I prefer that version. A lot of people like this one better. I actually think that one's better, the Psycho Circus demo version. Then you got Not for the Innocent, which ended up on Lick It Up, but Paul and Gene trade vocals on this one. So it's kind of cool. There's also another demo version of Not for the Innocent. Maybe it's from the Lick It Up era, where Paul just does some of the vocals. I think that's the better version. Then you have a bunch of takes of songs that were on the actual Creatures album. I Still Love You. These are recorded in the studio while they're recording the album. They're not demos. I Still Love You, take 1, take 2. Saint and Sinner, take 1, take 2, take 3. And you can hear in Saint and Sinner where Gene's shouting out another verse, another chorus. So they're kind of constructing the song, which is pretty cool. The thing about I Still Love You, which was unique, is every time Paul plays the intro, he seems to play it slightly different, where he changes one note or two. So I guess the one that actually ended up on the album is just happened to be that take. Then there's a song called Betrayed, which was released prior to the box set coming out, sort of as a teaser. Not all of the lyrics are written, so Paul is sort of just mumbling along with what the melody, but it's a pretty good song. There's something in the melody that I hear in another Kiss song that came out later on, and I'm trying to think of it, but he states in the liner notes that he has no recollection of the song at all. It's written by Vinny, and you can tell it's a Paul and Vinny song. Then you got some mixes of Creatures of the Night and Partners in Crime. They don't mention when these mixes are from. I know Partners in Crime had an alternate mix on like the B-side of Unholy or something like that. I Love It Loud remix, War Machine War remix. Rock and Roll Hell has 3 different takes. What's interesting about some of these takes of Rock and Roll Hell is some of them have that beginning but then some of them have just Gene opening with the low E bass. So I kind of prefer it like that, because on the album, that's the one weird thing I noticed, is that there's almost like a speed variation when they do that intro. It's kind of weird. Then they have the I Love It Loud single version, and the Creatures of the Night 1985 remix, which was, like I mentioned, there were some remixes on the 85 album. I thought there was more than one. I thought there was maybe 2. But Creatures is the obvious remix. I kind of like that one because that's the one, like I said, that I had when I was a kid. Odd thing is, they don't show a picture of that 85 reissue anywhere in this whole set, which I thought was kind of weird because it is part of the history of the album or whatever. But so that's the demos and rarities. Overall, pretty good. Some of the unreleased songs are good. If they were going to go into, some of these songs, like I said, are pre-Elder. They don't mention that they were going to record a rock album pre-Elder. They should have mentioned that. And there was some more demos. I believe there was almost like a 10-track album, written at least. So they should have included those, I believe, too. I don't think they're going to do an Elder box set, right? So then you get a double disc of live tracks from the tour, which is comprised of 4 shows, mainly 3. There's 1 track from one show, which I'll get to. And they try to assemble it in the order that most of the shows went, including the first bootleg I ever had from Kiss was New Year's Eve 1982, Rockford, Illinois. They're all soundboard recordings, but they're not like great audio, nothing crazy, except there's 2 tracks, Keep Me Coming and Rock and Roll Hell, which were only played in the very beginning of the tour. I didn't even know that they played Keep Me Coming live until a couple years ago. A bootleg surfaced, which is terrible quality on YouTube. Rock and Roll Hell I knew because that was on the bootleg that I had. I could have sworn, though, that there was on YouTube a recording of Saint and Sinner that they played only at the first show, and it was terrible quality. Maybe that's why they didn't include it, because that's the only known recording of it. But as far as I know, I'm pretty sure they played that Saint and Sinner at one or 2 shows, but it's not here. Then they come up with some additional live performances from the mixture of the shows, Rock and Roll Hell, I Want You, and they have King of the Nighttime World, which they only played once on the tour from Arkansas. They do a pretty good version of it. I don't know why they didn't play it at other dates. The only thing that's missing that I know they played was one show. I believe they played Deuce. Maybe they just don't have a recording of it or whatever. And then they have 7 sound effects, which is like the tank moving, Gene's like when he's doing his bass solo, all that, all that. The bell from the flame, the siren from Firehouse, and some bells. I don't know why they included these things. Kind of silly. I don't know why they didn't include like a whole show. I believe the last date of the show was the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles. That's pretty bootleg, widely bootleg, and I think it's professionally recorded, at least soundboard recording. So I don't know why they didn't do that. As far as the performances, you could just feel the aggression that these guys have. It's one of their best tours. It's one of those tours that most fans wanted to have seen. But you even just have to see video of this tour to see how aggressive and crazy they were. A lot of people complain about Vinny's playing on this tour, especially Gene. It's come out recently. I think he's thinking of the Lick It Up tour where he went crazy with his solos. These solos, he's pretty subdued. I mean, he plays most of them. Even like the King of the Nighttime World that they played once, he plays it pretty note for note for the album. So I don't know what they're complaining about. The other thing, too, is he does a solo after I Want You. And on here, they cut it short both times. And they don't even say, like, Vinnie Vincent lead guitar or nothing. So they just wanted to, subdue him. But there is a lot of Vinny as far as in the book. There's a bunch of quotes from him. They talk about him a lot. They don't mention that Ace was in the studio at all for Creatures or any of the demos. So that's why I'm thinking he's only on those Penny Lane demos. Because, like I said, Bob Kulick played on the Killers tracks as well. As far as the Creatures album itself, the title track, Creature of the Night, the lead was done by Steve Ferris, who went on to play with Mr. Mister, actually. He's done some interviews where they said they were considering him joining the band. It didn't work out for whatever reason. Blues guitar player by the name of Robin Ford, who's got some notoriety on his own. He played on I Still Love You and I believe Rock and Roll Hell. Vinny played on, I believe, 5 tracks. The song Killer, though, to me, the first half of that solo definitely sounds like Bob Kulick, and then Vinny comes in the second half of the solo. He's come in and said that he did play on that album in places, but it's not documented that he did. So, I don't know. I believe Mike Beccaro played bass from Toto. He played bass on Creatures of the Night. And there's another guy who played bass on it. Eric Carr played bass on I Still Love You, I think, as well. So, but the producer did say that Paul did like 6 layers of guitars on each song. So most of the rhythm guitars are Paul. They don't mention if Vinny played any rhythm guitar on the album. Maybe he did because he was there writing. They don't really mention it though. So as far as like Vinny on this album, I think it's just regulated to actually like a few solos. Then he joined the choir. A lot of people think he did the whole album, but he didn't. Anyway, that's my review of the box set. Let me know what you think of the set if you have it or if you plan on getting it. Personally, I would wait till it comes down in price a little. I got it for Christmas, so. But anyway, if you like these videos, please subscribe. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.